music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it.
Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when we run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
Yeah, you gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it?
what we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Gentlemen, it is time once again for the Retro Racing Managers League. We are back in action, and it's the 1990 Grand Prix World Championship season that kicks us off tonight. After a brilliant pre-qualifying race that saw only 6 finishers, we now have 3 teams that have qualified for the main event. Minardi, Dallara, and of course Lola LaRousse. And now they go up against the big guns of McLaren, Williams, Benetton, Ferrari and co. Jake Sanson here. Beside me is Sam Hall as we gear ourselves up for what promises to be a crazy race based on pre-qualifying.
Yes, thank you, Jake. It was a mega race, that qualifying race, especially with Stefan Johansson conking out on the final corner when he could have qualified for Onyx into this race. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm really looking forward to it. And you said, you pronounced the word wrong there, Jake. You said Co. What you meant was Tyrrell.
I did say, yes, absolutely right. Very good point. And of course, that's your team, so of course we're going to be keeping an eye on it. Excuse me. I swallowed my own pride there. So we've got 72 laps around the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, and it was a real car breaker of a race, wasn't it? 26 cars started, only 6 made it across the line.
Yeah, it's a very bumpy surface, this. It's more bumpy. I mean, we've been getting complaints all weekend about the bumps, but we never really knew how bad it was until we saw the amount of cars retiring. I mean, it caused punctures, it caused engine failures, gearbox failures. It was just a car breaker, and we've not seen it on this level for quite some time.
So it's time to go straight into the main event itself, where you will wait around no longer to beat about the bush. And it is going to be a very familiar front row. Ayrton Senna, pole position for the McLaren team with Alain Prost second in the Ferrari behind. Gerhard Berger will line up in P3 in the McLaren, having moved across from Ferrari. Nelson Piquet in the Benetton lines up in 4th position. An amazing job from Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell as he lines up 5th on the grid alongside Leighton House driver Ivan Capelli. And then it's Thierry Boutsen in the Williams alongside new recruit at Brabham, Mika Hakkinen of Finland. Then it's Nigel Mansell way down in 9th in the Ferrari alongside Mauricio Gugelmin. Alessandro Nannini's Benetton alongside Adrian Fernandez, the new Mexican, in alongside at Arrows. Ricard Rydell lines up in the 2nd Tyrrell alongside Riccardo Patrese in the 2nd Williams. Stefano Modena in the 2nd Brabham, and Martin Brundle leads the charge for Minardi from P16. Not a bad effort from pre-qualifying. Michele Alboreto alongside the Lotus of Derek Warwick, and then it's Pierluigi Martini's Minardi alongside Martin Donnelly in the 2nd Lotus. Eddie Cheever in the Ligier lines up beside Johnny Herbert's Dallara, Nicola Larini in the second Ligier, Damon Hill in the second Dallara, and then it's Aguri Suzuki and Eric Bernard in the 2 Lola LaRousse cars. It's going to be a fascinating race battle, but as the cars are now lined up in position here at Phoenix, Arizona, we could be in for a crazy encounter. 72 laps, and it's tough to know what drivers are going to do in terms of pit stop strategies. Refueling in for 1990, experts are predicting we could see anywhere between 2 and a 3 stop strategy maybe. So it's going to be a very tough race battle for all of the competitors, but 72 laps of the US Grand Prix on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona are about to get underway. Senna on the inside, Prost on the outside, it's go, go, go! We charge away from the grid, and it looks as though Ayrton Senna's got the perfect getaway. Alain Prost in the Ferrari, trying to close up behind. Piquet's got a flyer, as he's going to pull up alongside Berger, and as we head down to the first corner, already some good starts. Capelli's made an absolute charge forward as well. The Honda power in the back of that Leighton House, serving him very well. It looks as though Prost is going for the lead on the inside line. Prost has taken the lead away from Senna down to the braking zone for the first corner, and there's damage. It's Martinis Minardi who's got in the middle of that. It looks as though somebody's got some big damage in the field. Somebody's rear wing is missing, so that is definitely not good. Patrese in the Williams has dropped back a long way, but someone is missing a rear wing. It's Michele Alboreto. He's missing part of the front wing as well.
Well, this happened in the pre-qualifying race as well. We saw that braking zone, the elastic band, the rubber band effect, as they all brake into turn 1. It's a very wide track, but there's just not enough track. There's one line around that corner, and we saw a rear wing go in the first race earlier. As now we're looking at Prost leading Senna. How often have we said that? Around the first half of the lap. And looking into the midfield, there's more trouble going on there. That's one of the Camel Lotuses that's involved there. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, Jake.
Yeah, I think Derek Warwick ended up trying to get past the Ligier and wasn't able to. Alboreto's trying to recover to the pits, and the drivers are actually struggling to get around him. So this is a bit of a problem as Alboreto recovers to the pits. He'll be there for a while trying to get that Arrows back out onto the circuit. Not good news for team boss Ben Haxon, who's already got problems to deal with. But Alain Prost in the Ferrari leads the way. Senna was 0.3 of a second faster than him during qualifying, but Prost getting the best start. Capelli is on the charge though in the Leighton House Honda. Senna's coming straight for Prost though, up the inside line, and it looks as though he's going to make the move for the lead. He does manage to get there, and Piquet's got through on Berger. Meanwhile, we've got the Williams of Boutsen trying to get up the inside of Nannini. Oh, Alboreto's crashed out on his way to the pits. So what's happened to Alboreto? He's had more problems on the way through. It looks as though there's very little grip there on that car, and he's just gone straight on. I think he lost downforce as a result of losing the front and rear wing. So Alboreto out of the Grand Prix.
Now we saw lots of incidents at this particular corner in the pre-qualifying race in the GoBobby.UK Cup earlier this afternoon. So I would be interested to know if there's still something down there. Obviously, a huge loss of downforce on the Arrows there. Big loss of downforce. No front wing, no rear wing. As Senna again leads. Capelli, I think, for Leighton House is going to be on quite a low fuel load. We're going to see certain cars dropping back in this opening phase, certain cars charging forward like Capelli as the fuel loads with refueling obviously reintroduced for the 1990 season. We're going to see cars just where they
Capelli going for Prost. Capelli's making the move on Prost and gets into second place. Nice overtake from Ivan Capelli. That does sort of back up your statement there, Sam, that maybe they've decided to put him on a low fuel load because he has completely charged forward. Yes, he's got a powerful Honda engine in that car compared to the Ferrari, but even so, Capelli on a light fuel load perhaps to try and get himself into a decent position.
Yes, and obviously we know from the earlier race, again, we keep referring back to it, it's the only reference we've got so far of just what's going to happen here. As Berger now going for a move on Piquet, going down the inside into turn 1, pulls it off, easy move. Once he got in the corner, just stamp on the brakes, take the line, nice and simple. Alain Prost, I've got a feeling Fernandez was going for a long way back there onto the Ferrari.
Yeah, he passes Mansell for 12th, so Nigel Mansell, I wonder if he's on a one-stop strategy, you know, because he's losing a lot of places, and Mansell in the Ferrari might be going for the long game here if he can look after the car and look after the tyres. A one-stop strategy is not out of the question for the Englishman.
Well, yes, Mansell obviously finished 4th in the championship last year, so he'll be looking to go at least one or two spots better. Whether or not Ferrari will let him challenge Alain Prost for the title, if indeed Prost is involved in the championship battle, which it looks as though he will be again, looks to regain his title, or retain his title, I should say. Ivan Capelli, this is an impressive drive. I know we're only a couple of laps into the race, but to be 1.5 seconds off the Senna, and seeming as there's another move by the other Lacing House there. The two Lacing House cars are just having fun at the moment.
Yeah, they really do seem to have a really good edge to them. This car has already been given a lot of praise from people in the paddock. Apparently the work of Chief Designer Adrian Newey has not gone unnoticed by those in the paddock who know what they're questing after, so it could be a very interesting development season for Capelli as he and the team move forward. Adrian Newey, the designer, definitely potential for them to become a real key player in this 1990 season, and the Leyton House punching massively above its weight. They had a reasonable season last year, but the move to Honda engines plus a little bit of know-how from Newey on the technical front, this car is really starting to come into its own. And Capelli has been on the watch list of Ferrari for some time, it has to be said. We're on board with Johnny Herbert looking round the circuit as he's tightened up behind, I think that's Martin Donnelly in the Lotus. No, it's his teammate Derek Warwick, who's not got a great start, it has to be mentioned. So Warwick tucked up behind the Ligier. The Lotuses and the Ligiers not having the best start to the season as they run around there in with Johnny Herbert. But just outside the top six of the Senna, Capelli, Berger, Prost, Piquet and the new boy Mika Hakkinen. We've got John Alesi in the Tyrrell, Boutsen in the Williams. They've not started the way they wanted to. Gugelmin and Nannini as Modena makes the move on the inside of the arrows. So Stefano Modena gets through in the Brabham.
I've got a feeling this move into Turn 1 is something we're going to be seeing a lot of in this race. We've got two very long straights into two heavy braking zones, both 90-degree corners, as are most of the corners on this track, it does have to be said. So there's plenty of overtaking. As here's Jean Lacey proving the point again, going down the inside of Hakkinen. And Hakkinen tried fighting back there, but yeah, Lacey gets the position, gets back up into 6th position, and now he's chasing down Prost, who has again dropped another spot to Nelson Piquet.
So this could be a fascinating battle all the way through this one as Capelli has split the two McLarens. Berger having got past Prost, Piquet's got past Prost as well, so the Ferrari is actually really struggling for pace. I wonder if Chris Cavani, team boss at Ferrari, has managed to put both the Ferraris on a one-stop strategy, because they are going backwards down the order in terms of the weight of the cars could be a big factor. Now Prost is not going to be too happy at losing places on the road. Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell Honda is coming at him pretty quickly now. So obviously Ferrari want to play the long game, but it's not going to make them look good in the early stages as Alesi has a look at Prost and can't quite make it through. Berger meanwhile is catching up to Capelli, so the McLaren Honda with a good chance to move into 2nd place.
This would suggest to me, just as you were saying, both Ferraris could be on a one-stop, both McLarens could be on a 2 or potentially even 3-stop. And it would be a bold call to put both cars on the same strategy by any team. You'd think that splitting strategy and gambling on the odds is probably a better move. Gerhard Berger, we knew what to expect from him this season, as we briefly saw one of the entertaining new camera angles we've got on board looking back. As there's a move going down, that's another Ferrari dropping in position.
Yep, it's Modena. Modena getting past Mansell.
So Mansell again dropping back into P13 now. Ferrari, really, they're going to be happy with that. Behind both McLarens, who you've got to say are probably going to be their chief championship rivals this year. Yes, Senna is the gap's coming down actually. Capelli 1.3 seconds, it was 1.5.
So Capelli is actually starting to chase after Senna.
Senna is being caught by the Leyton House.
Wow.
Who would be saying that?
Well, they did say that 1990 would shake up the playing field a little bit. Certainly not for Senna and McLaren, but Ferrari are struggling. There goes Alesi. Alesi goes through into P5, up the inside of Alain Prost. And so Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell gets through into 4th position. Senna still leads. Capelli in the very quick Leyton House in 2nd place ahead of Berger, Piquet, Alesi, Prost, Hakkinen and Boutsen.
As we get into lap 7, we're about to begin. I've been enjoying how the cars, for some reason, I don't know if there's a bump on the road, but they switch from the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the track. Midway along that, it's a real sudden movement. It looks very strange, but there must be a bump or a drain cover there that they're not entirely comfortable with. The Senna gets very, very close to the wall.
Yeah, I'm told it's the latter. I'm told it is a drainage cover. I think there was an issue with one of the Minardis in practice. Actually went over that part of the course. There's a big bump and it took off a drainage cover. So that essentially is one of the reasons why. And it actually, Michele Alboreto had a similar problem in qualifying in the first session. He didn't set a time during the first qualifying session. He managed to get one in, but for all the good it's done him, not even being able to complete lap 1, it really has caused him a major concern. The race a lot cleaner than the first race. That's certainly the first thing we can take out of the early stages, but then these drivers in these cars are a lot better, stronger, a lot more well built, and obviously the attrition rate is never going to be as high in the top 10.
And I'm very interested in this as well, because we've got the GoBobby.UK Cup winners, the top 3 teams who have come through. In that race, BMS Scuderia were the only team not to have a retirement. They finished 2nd and 3rd with Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert. Both drivers obviously featuring in this race. They're down the back end, as you would expect, being a promoted team. We've got Damon Hill in 18th, as you can see, and Johnny Herbert 23rd. So it'll be interesting to see just how long those cars can hold out for, or indeed if they can reach the end.
There goes Gugelmin. Gugelmin gets Boutsen. Sorry, Sam. Gugelmin gets the move there on Thierry Boutsen in the Williams.
And as I said, we've got those promoted teams. We've got Martini and we've got Brundle. Brundle, who was desperately unlucky in the earlier stages of that early race, retiring while he was in the lead. And he wasn't the only driver to suffer that fate, was he, Jay?
No, indeed. There were several cars involved in the leading battle. Brundle had the lead and retired. Zanardi had the lead and retired. Johnny Herbert had the lead at one point and then had some grip issues, whatever it was. Handling of the cars didn't quite work out according to plan for them. And then Martini inherited the lead, but was able to coax the car home very neatly. Look at how quickly Capelli is gaining ground on Senna. They've definitely got a lighter fuel load on board that Leighton House. Yes, they've both got Honda engines, these two cars, but it's certainly looking particularly interesting. Now, I'm hearing rumblings in the paddock. All of a sudden, the start of the 1990 season, we've had several new teams suddenly take on the Honda power units after McLaren's victorious season with them last year. Now, that's not necessarily surprising in and of itself, but I've heard a rumour from a journalist in the paddock that Honda are essentially using 1990 as a potential future test bed for rebooting their own factory Grand Prix team effort. Now, that would be fascinating. They're doing all of their data and legwork by supplying several teams in the paddock, including McLaren. But now Brabham have the engines, Tyrrell have the engines, Leighton House have the engines. So clearly, Honda deciding to do all their development and their research in public with 4 Grand Prix teams.
Well, yes, I mean, we were one of those teams, Tyrrell, who, as Johnny Herbert goes for a move down the inside, perfect move there, well executed, brilliant from the young British driver. But yes, we were one of those teams who took on the Honda power at a very late stage, very, very late stage actually. We were already in the paddock and we were offered the engines. I know there are some teams who are interested in becoming the factory Honda outfit, essentially selling their team to Honda. We're not one of those, I can confirm that, but I know there are 2 or 3 teams that are interested. There's one, the Williams, there makes a brilliant, I thought it outbraked himself, nearly went into the wall there.
I think Boutsen's had problems in coming to the pit lane because he's down in 23rd all of a sudden. So Boutsen is right down at the back. He's had some kind of problem, and that has really hampered the Williams team's charge. Here's Herbert, making the move on the inside of Martin Donnelly in the Lotus, and that'll do nicely for him. He was one of the drivers touted for that seat, but he's found a nice berth at Dallara. And here he comes now to try and close up on Derek Warwick. So Johnny Herbert going well. Some of the new faces in the paddock going very well indeed. Mika Hakkinen, this is his first ever Grand Prix, and he is running in P7. Not bad at all, considering that the top 10 are now going to score points in Grand Prix racing from 1990 onwards. Berger's caught right up to the back of Capelli as Capelli continues to try and close up on Senna. This is a great little battle as Chiva is about to lose out to Boutsen, who continues on his charge back through the field. That shows you just how quick the Williams Renault engine is compared to the Ligier's Ford engine. So the Renault, very powerful engine indeed. I'm surprised Moore didn't go for that Renault power in 1990, but obviously there are several teams looking into what their best option is. There were rumours running around for a long time that Coloni were going to go for a Subaru engine for the 1990 season. They'd been developing it with them for a while. Oh, someone in trouble up front, and it's Johnny Herbert. Oh, Johnny Herbert's that's either a water leak or something gone wrong with the engine. Clearly the pre-qualifying race has taken its toll on that Dallara, and he's out of the race.
That's such a shame for him. I mean, obviously, like we were saying, reached the end of the race earlier, and he stopped in a less than ideal position there, really. Let's hope the marshals can get there. Yes, there we go. The marshals have cleared up the car as he becomes the second retirement from the race. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jake. I was under the impression that Williams may have taken on Honda engines even later than we did, as Riccardo Patrese makes the most of whatever power he's running there to go up the inside.
I apologise. Yes, they did. Yes, they did take Honda engines very late into the day, but apparently it was not signed off. So I'm not entirely sure whether they've got an agreement with Honda for the next race or whether it's Renault or not. Well, I haven't got that memo, so we'll have to double check on that one. But I know that the Williams is obviously having some difficulties because obviously they built the car around a Renault engine, so they've got to put a Honda engine in it at some stage because they've signed that. Well, I've got a signed contract in front of me here that somebody has taken a photograph of and sent to me. So an interesting one over at Williams. That one will need to be cleared up. Capelli right there in front of Berger, but I think Berger's got him on the ropes down the main straight. So Berger's going to have a bit of a chance. Here's Mansell getting a move on Patrese. So Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari gets up into 12th position, leaves the braking very late, but then that's Nigel Mansell's modus operandi all over, isn't it? He's always last of the late breakers. So Mansell.
I am slightly concerned now that he is right on the back of our rookie driver, Swedish driver, Rickard Rydell, as Derek Warwick goes down the inside there. Brilliant, brilliant move. Another move for the minor positions at the moment, but as we know, those minor positions can very, very quickly become the major positions. It's a move on Nicola Larini there. Textbook move into turn one once again.
So just Alboreto and Herbert out of the race at the moment. Complete contrast to what we saw earlier. But a fascinating scenario for the drivers as they continue on their way.
And here comes another move down the inside as we cut away from it just in time to go on board with Derek Warwick. Locking a tyre there, locking the outside wheel, the right front. You can see it looks quite wide, this track, from the wide shots, but from the onboard you can see just how narrow some of these corners are. Obviously a street circuit, there's no runoff or minimal runoff. If you make a mistake, the concrete walls are there to punish you. Thierry Boutsen comes down the inside and makes the move stick on Derek Warwick this time.
So the battle continues. Senna out in the lead of the race in front of Capelli and Berger. They're within a second and a half of him though, so Senna just controlling the pace. He's not pushing any harder than he has to. He knows this is a long race here at Phoenix. 72 laps, we've completed 12 of those, so 60 laps to go. It's only a short configuration of race circuit, but it's already taken its critics up and down the pit lane. This is the second year in a row we've come here. The big question is, where would you go if you had the American Grand Prix? Would you go to one of the permanent road courses that are used for IndyCar, as Patrese makes the move on the inside there of Mansell and gets back through the Williams Renault, and I have been told it is a Renault in the back of that Williams. So it is the Williams Renault in 12th position now for Patrese. Boutsen recovering after an early pit stop. So I'm told that the Williams Renault is powerful, but for some reason they're not able to maximize. Oh, Senna! Senna's in trouble! Senna's out of the race! I can't believe it. Senna's had a car failure in the first race of the season. Mechanical failure puts out the 1988 world champion. Let's look at it again. Let's watch on the replay as Ayrton Senna dives down the back straight, overshoots, mechanical failure, and he knows it happens instantly, but he can't stop the car, and it rips the front right wheel off the car. Ayrton Senna will not win the opening race of the 1990 season. He is out.
And I'm sorry, Jake. To me, that looks as though it's a driving error. That looks as though although we thought he was comfortable leading Ivan Capelli, it to me looked as though he was getting a bit nervous that the gap was coming down and might have just locked a brake or misjudged his braking into that corner from the way that he's it just understeered off the track. I'm not entirely sure that was a reliability problem, but now we have the situation where Ivan Capelli for Leighton House is leading the race. He's being hunted down by Gerhard Berger, just 4 tenths separate them. But Nelson Piquet in third, then Tyrrell are in fourth. I did not think I'd be saying that, and I must not get too excited. I must remain impartial in these times.
Did Ayrton Senna make the mistake? That is going to be the big question. We saw it happen 2 years ago at Monaco when he was leading by a country mile, pushed the car too hard and ended up into the barriers on the way to the tunnel. Has he pushed it too hard again here as Boutsen is going to get up the inside of Damon Hill's Dallara and gets through into 16th place. So a nice move there from Thierry Boutsen as the Williams team recover. They are now 12th and 16th, but the way this race is going, this is going to be an absolutely astonishing race as Berger is now putting Ivan Capelli under pressure for race win. Piquet is there in third in the Benetton. And in fourth place, it is Jean Alesi from Alain Prost Ferrari, Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, then Gugelmin, Nannini, Modena, and Rickard Rydell in the Tyrrell.
Now, Jake, earlier you theorised that Thierry Boutsen for Williams may have been in the pits, and this was the cause for him being so far back. I'm just wondering, was he involved with the carnage at the start? Was he involved somehow in the rear wing that came off of the arrows? Was he somehow involved in that, and that's why he had to pit? Because we didn't see him pit as Eddie Cheever here goes for a move. Who's that on? It's on one of
That's on his teammate. That's Larini.
His teammate.
Yeah, he's got past his own teammate there, Nicola Larini. So they continue to battle away. Look at how close Ivan Capelli is getting to the wall there as Patrese gets his move on Nigel Mansell again. These two have been swapping places for the entirety of this race behind the new Swede Rickard Rydell, who is doing a fantastic job in P10 in the Tyrrell, fresh out of Formula 3000 and doing a fair job in that car. Here's Piquet. Now, he's a favourite for this one, obviously. 3-time Formula 1 world champion. He's won more titles than anybody else in this Grand Prix. 1981, 1983 and 1987 world champion. And still pushing on. He's not losing any of his grit and determination. He's still a spring chicken out there as Nelson Piquet, running in third position at the moment behind Capelli and Berger. So Ivan Capelli leads the race then in the Leighton House with its Honda engine. And, well, Honda will be a bit baffled by Senna's retirement, but if their Leighton House car with the Honda engine in can have a strong 1990 season, well, what would the betting be that Leighton House, which is a Japanese firm, let's not forget, there are already incredible ties between these two brands now for 1990. If they start doing good results, if they start banging in a win or two with some podiums, what's the betting that they could go Works Honda?
Oh, that would certainly be an interesting prospect, shall we say. But also, don't forget, last year, Ivan Capelli and Leighton House only finished 2 races. They weren't classified in the championship. As out the inside, Mansell goes Boutsen again as they continue switching places. But yeah, Ivan Capelli was not classified in the championship last year with just 2 finishes to his name, which is ludicrous to think that they're going from nowhere really, or absolutely nowhere, to leading the race. Whether they finish the race or not is almost irrelevant now. I think Dave Goddard, team boss Dave Goddard,
and it's Berger!
Over the moon, and Berger's gone.
And Berger's been hit by Piquet!
Well, he's in the pits now. He's into the pits.
I
He's
think
going to pit the fuel lights.
Yes, he was. So Berger, I think, trying to make a pit stop, he just gets it wrong in that corner again. He gets it slightly wrong, goes a little bit too deep, rubs the barrier, Piquet hits him, and now Berger makes his way into the pit lane to peel off. So Gerhard Berger on his way into the pits, and it's that corner again. So this is the first official pit stop of a Formula 1 Grand Prix in 1990. So into the pits comes Berger, his teammate Senna out of the race. We don't know what the reason is for that, but he was leading. Whether he made the mistake or whether something failed on the car, but whatever the reason is, Senna is out, Berger is in from P2, and that puts Ivan Capelli into the lead in front of Nelson Piquet and Jean Alesi.
Yeah, it's not gone well. Oh, and Stefano Modena, is he facing the wrong way round? I'm not sure if he's trying to... we saw this earlier in the earlier races today, and there are a few incidents, a few real dangerous incidents with drivers reversing. You can see the traffic coming past. If he reverses, as was seen earlier, this could be carnage. We don't want that. And Martin Brundle clips the barrier there. Stefano Modena still sitting. More cars going past. He's going to drop to the back of the order. If there's actually a clear space in the track for him to reverse back out.
I think he's got to wait. He's got to wait for the field to come past. The problem is, by the time he starts reversing, he's got to wait for a gap in the traffic. There is the gap, so he's able to utilise it. And he comes straight into the pits, so clearly a handling defect. Jean Alesi running in third, trying to close up on Nelson Piquet. But this is an incredible performance from the young Frenchman, doing a great job. He's only had a handful of Grand Prix before today, and he is basically captaining the Tyrrell ship. Ken Tyrrell has obviously given you the keys to the ship, Sam, and he's obviously backed you in order to rely upon this young Frenchman to move forward.
Yes, well, Ken is still involved in the team. Obviously, we're not gonna be chucking him out the door anytime soon. A man with that experience and with that respect within the paddock, you can't get rid of. You can't really replace. But yeah, it was him who was behind the move to get Alesi in. And yeah, I wish I could take credit for that one. Brian Nell's entirely Michael. But no, Alesi was Ken's call, and he's at the moment. I mean, we're only 13 laps into the season, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's plenty of racing still to go. He's doing a good job. As Adrian Fernandez here, is that Thierry Boutsen he's taking? No, it's Patrese. Fernandez puts a move on Patrese.
Yes, he does, and at the same time, Boutsen gets past Martini, so the Williams cars are very close together now. I think they're in split strategy mode, of course, now. Boutsen running rapidly to try and close up on his teammate, but Fernandez is the real find of the season, the young Mexican who's giving Arrows a plenty amount of joy and surprise at the moment as they continue on their way. But yeah, great news for Adrian Fernandez. Have Arrows made a bit of a sparkling decision here with Alboreto as Capelli pits from the lead. So Ivan Capelli comes into the pit lane for Leighton House. Piquet takes over the lead of the race then.
So we've seen stop speed between 8.4 and 9.1 seconds so far today. The length of this stop will indicate how long he's going for. This is going to be quite a long middle stint, 10.1 seconds. That's going to be a very long middle stint. I would almost certainly say this Leighton House car is now on a 2-stop strategy, not a 3-stop, as you would initially have thought. And looking at the order, Gerhard Berger in 7th after pitting is ahead of Nigel Mansell, comfortably, almost 20 seconds clear of Nigel Mansell. And he's closing on Prost. He's only about 7 seconds behind Prost. If Ferrari have fueled heavily, this is not going well for them. They may have pulled the wrong strategy here.
And crucially, Berger has leapfrogged Capelli, because Berger was behind Capelli at the pit stop, if you recall, and had actually lost a few seconds to Capelli. So Capelli, the Leighton House crew, not getting the best pit stop. I wonder if they were initially trying to do a 3-stop strategy, same as Berger, but they ended up messing up the pit stop. So that's a real problem for them. But it's Piquet who leads, Alesi in 2nd, Prost in 3rd place, Hakkinen in the Brabham running solidly in 5th place. The Williams cars are now making progress. They're in 11th and 12th, in behind Rickard Rydell's Tyrrell.
Yep, it's the top 10. It's all going to shake out. We know with the pit stop strategy, this is all going to change every 5 minutes. Because I believe our cars are due to come in and pit soon. Nelson Piquet looks as though he's on a similar strategy. So we could see Prost retaking the lead within the next 2 or 3 laps. Gerhard Berger, they go to a move on Nannini. Easy, just does it on the straight, doesn't even need to get into the corner. Nannini tried cutting back, that was a brave move, and it's cost him time. He drops way back on the McLaren driver now. As we're watching Jean Alesi just stroking the car around, just following Nelson Piquet for the moment. Well, that's not Nelson Piquet, he's following, it's the Williams are fighting into turn 1. Again, we see this move. How many times we go?
Oh, that's Cheever. Cheever's gone. Cheever's gone. Now, what's happened there to Eddie Cheever? We'll have to double check as he comes through. He's battling away there with the Lotus up until that stage. That is Derek Warwick in front of him. He drifts wide. Tuck's the same problem. Yeah, there's still, if you hit that wrong part of the course, Cheever's had the shunt. Now, he's facing the wrong way, but I think he's kept the engine running this time. So Cheever's going to fall to the back of the grid here. And, well, he's got to wait for his moment. He gets the car spun turned, but he can't quite get the car spun around with time to get back into the action. So he's now got to wait for a gap in the traffic. His team will be on the radio, and that's not going to please anybody at Ligier.
No, I mean, we've seen this a couple of times already, and I must apologise because earlier I said that Leighton House, the team boss, was Dave Goddard. Of course, he is the Ligier team boss, so he wasn't doing somersaults, especially not seeing Eddie Cheever. It's obviously Andrew Sanson that is in charge of the Leighton House team, so he's the one happy at the moment with the performance of Ivan Capelli, who has just gone up to 6th with the pit stops that are happening there. And Lacey in the lead. I will take that. I will take a picture of that. And that will go on the factory wall.
Excellent.
That'll be there tomorrow morning.
Is that the first time a Tyrrell has led a Grand Prix since 1983? Oh, that's Martini. That's Martini. Mechanical problems at Minardi, by the look of it. As Martini lets his teammate go. Oh, his teammate actually nudges him out of the way. So Martini with a mechanical problem. I think he had a throttle issue there. So Martini out of the race.
It does appear as though Martin Brundle didn't pick up on the fact, which is from someone as experienced as Brundle, a bit strange, that one. But he just didn't catch up on the fact that Martini had a throttle problem there. As now we're watching Alain Prost. He's being chased down by a Brabham. Which Brabham's that? I've lost it now. It's Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen in second place, or in third place, with Gugelman in 4. Gugelman in 4th, and Berger in.
Now, a lot of people are talking up this young Finn, Mika Hakkinen. He's been a Formula 3 star. He was going to be competing again in Formula... Oh, that's Alesi! Alesi spins! The race leader, Jean Alesi, spins on the way to the final bend. So the Tyrrell is in a major straight problem. There goes Prost, Hakkinen, Gugelmin, Berger. Jean Alesi just striking the wall in exactly the same place. And it's really put pay to the Tyrrell, getting a decent result in this one. He manages to spin turn the car quickly without damage. So Jean Alesi in dice race. Look at what it's done to the lead battle, because now Prost has got Hakkinen, Gugelmin and Berger very close in together with each other, and it looks as though they're trying to trip over a back marker in the mix there as Eric Bernard gets out of the way by bouncing off the bouncing off the wall. So Prost and Hakkinen have got through. Gugelmin is still 3rd, Berger is still 4th. But there's a genuine chance here that Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, I was going to say, they're talking about big style here in Finland. He's Marlborough's latest charge. He was going to be in Formula 3 this year, but Brabham decided, well, we're going to stick him in the car and see what he does. And he is a position away from leading a Grand Prix on his debut. There are not many people who could say that.
No, I mean, he is one of those talents that, I believe there was about 7 or 8 teams that were interested in hiring the young Finn's services. And clearly he's showing exactly why people wanted him there. As he's riding on board with the Minardi and Martin Brundle. Running wide. Ah, there we go.
Alesi passed him. Alesi passed him out of the pit lane. So Jean Alesi getting through. I wonder if Brundle thought that Alesi was lapping him, because he was leading a lap ago, don't forget. So maybe...
It certainly appeared that way, did it?
Gugelmin pits. Gugelmin pits from P4. So Berger had just overtaken him. So Gugelmin now comes into the pits from P4. As Hakkinen is still about a second away from the Frenchman Alain Prost. Maybe this race is going to come to the Ferrari after all, as Capelli duels with the Benettons. The Benettons are there together beside him, and that's Nannini getting through. So Nannini gets through. Capelli tries to hold the power around the outside as Berger tightens right up on Hakkinen. Has Hakkinen got a problem? Hakkinen's slowing. I think they've got a problem. I think Hakkinen's got an issue. The Brabham has done such a good job up to this point, but Hakkinen is slowing dramatically. He's desperately trying to make it back to the pits.
Now, we saw this earlier. There were several cars, and again, the BMS Scuderia, those cars earlier had intermittent problems, whether they were caused by the bumps or not, and then equally fixed by the bumps is unclear, because Herbert and Hill both went through phases of the race where they were extremely slow and had no grip. And both cars obviously pitted similarly around that time. So I wonder if Hakkinen is going to find that this is just an intermittent problem. It will come back to him in a couple of laps as he drops another position to Nannini. Nearly goes into the wall there. Yeah, this looks very reminiscent of what happened earlier.
I think this is an electrical issue developing, because the car is being very sporadic as to where it's placed around the course. And Häkkinen struggling. Oh, careful, Mika. No, he's hit the wall, and that's it. Game over for Mika Häkkinen. The electrical issue takes the Brabham out of the race. I think he was trying to make it back to the pits, but Häkkinen is out of the race for Brabham. And there goes Bernard. Dear, oh dear. He pulls right back across in front of one of the Ferraris. I think that is actually the race leader, Alain Prost, is it? No, that's Mansell. That's Mansell in the Ferrari who's going to lap him. But Eric Bernard in the Lola LaRousse, they're having problems too. Goodness me, this circuit really is taking its toll.
Yeah, he seemed to, under braking, be struggling a bit with the rear there. It seemed to be shaking from side to side. I'm not entirely...
Is that a fuel feed problem? And Mansell rubs the wall.
Mansell strikes the wall, and he's so lucky to keep it out the tyres on the outside of that following corner.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is that a fuel feed problem maybe for Bernard in the Lola? Because obviously you try and shake the car normally to try and get fuel to the feed pipe. A very unusual problem.
As we see, the battle is continuing in the midfield, but no, it genuinely could be something like that, and it could just need to be a bit of a shake to get it fixed again. As Mansell's in the wall, Mansell just hit the wall,
and Bernard again.
Cars are hitting the wall. 2 or 3 cars went into the wall after him. That might have been a Lacey in the wall as well.
Well, was Häkkinen's problem more severe? Has he left oil down? Because if that's the case, if he's had a slow oil leak, then that's obviously going to cause problems of grip for the other cars out on the circuit. That's going to be a major problem as Bernard tries to get the car slowed down for the apex. But through all of this, Berger is now leading. Where's Prost? Prost has fallen back down into second. Berger has caught and passed the Ferrari.
Well, Prost is all over the track. You could see from that brief bit where we had him on the cameras there, he was all over the track. He was completely offline, almost completely on the opposite side of the track to where the line was. I wonder if Prost might be developing a problem as well. He's dropped 3 seconds off the lead.
There's a car on fire. There's a car on fire down the back straight. A Lacey's crashed. The Tyrrell. This time it's game over. That's a big disaster for Jean Alesi and the Tyrrell team, but there was a car on fire down the main straight. There he goes, and it's Fernandez. Fernandez, the Mexican, doing such a good job in the arrows, but that car is now absolutely ablaze, and he's going to have to bring that one to a stop. What a shame. That's 3 major stars, new faces to Formula One, who have been amazing here at Phoenix. Häkkinen, Alesi and Fernandez, and none of them are going to get to see the end of this race. What a shame.
I will draw your attention to another rising star. Look at 6th position at the moment. Obviously,
that's a good point.
To draw attention to my own team, but Ricard Rydell, we were talking up with John Alesi. I might just beat Ken Tyrrell on this one. I did not expect to be saying that on race 1. I think we do have a slight bet going on through the season, but Googleman has just gone past Rydell. I've just seen it on the tower.
And Damon Hill's been passed by Thierry Boutsen, but Hill, in his first Grand Prix, is in 10th place. That's good enough for a point. So that could be very interesting, as you're right, Nannini, I think that was, battling with Ivan Capelli. Capelli gets through. Oh, and Mansell spins the Ferrari. Mansell spins the Ferrari out of 8th place. So that is a big problem for the Ferrari driver, and that's really going to hamper his chances here at Phoenix. He's going to let a lot of cars go through. This is going to be a crazy start to the season. If Senna's out, and now Mansell looks as though he's going to be out of the race, goodness knows who's going to get the victory in the season opener here in Phoenix.
Well, look at the Go Bobby UK Cup drivers. You've got Damon Hill and 9th, as Mansell clobbers the wall there. Surely he's going to come into the pits for a new front wing after that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he cut straight into the pits there. Although his fuel light again is on, so he may have been. We've seen a few incidents where drivers have dropped it at the penultimate corner, then comes straight into the pits. So I wonder if there's something to do with the line they have to take there that is causing them to spin, whether it's a different application of power. And
oops, that's Rydell.
Ricard Rydell now into the wall. We should stop talking about my drivers as soon as possible.
Well, Rydell rubs the wall there in the Tyrrell. He gets away with it, but they can't afford to do this too often, as PK has got past Prost now. So Prost has fallen down to 3rd position and is being caught by Ivan Capelli. Has Prost in the Ferrari got gearbox trouble? Because it did sound particularly loud, the gearbox there in the Ferrari, as he came through. So I would suspect that there is some kind of issue developing on the Ferrari. And, well, we've already seen one McLaren retire from the race. We've seen Williams have an issue early on that brought Boutsen into the pit lane down at the back. But let's talk about Thierry Boutsen, because he was dead last time. Oh, that's Damon Hill. Damon Hill has crashed the Dallara, so that's it. Game over for him. And I'm afraid that is now both the Dallaras out of the race. What a shame. They will not score points in their Grand Prix debut, neither Damon Hill or Emma Featherstone as a team manager.
And is that the penultimate corner again? As Aguri Suzuki again makes a mistake there. I'm fairly sure that at the end of this lap, again it's towards...
Oh, there's Mansell.
Corner. Mansell is out now.
Suspension failure. You can see the car listing at the back there. That's what caused him the issue. So I think he's hit the wall somewhere, Nigel Mansell, and that's caused a suspension failure in that Ferrari. And that's now half of the Scuderia out of the race. One McLaren out, one Ferrari out.
And is this the bumps? Has he hit the wall, or is this the bumps? And we've seen him have a couple of spins. It's not been a great day for him. Obviously, 15 race wins to his name. Finished 4th last year. We said he had ambitions of the title or designs on the title this year. It's not the way to start. Is Gerhard Berger? No. I thought we'd joined him going slowly there. I was thinking, what? Both McLarens out there. I mean, if you want to blow things wide open, that's how you do it. But yes, so we've got Piquet and Capelli again up to 3rd. Prost is dropping back and back. I genuinely can't think what's happening there. He was 4 seconds off the lead not long ago, only about 3 laps ago, and now he's 12. Have we missed a spin or something from the Ferrari driver?
Well, a spin would drop him back a little way, but he's genuinely losing pace to Capelli. That's the biggest issue at the moment. He's been passed by Capelli, but he's losing time gradually. I wonder if he's just got a very heavy fuel load. And again, they're obviously trying to make that car go a little bit further into the race than the others. Has Prost actually made a pit stop yet? I'm not sure he has. As Suzuki strikes the barriers there. Only 17 cars running, of which the last 3 are the 2 Lolas and Eddie Cheever's Ligier. So Suzuki gets going again, but the way they keep going, they could well end up with a point. Because the Lola LaRousse team, as long as they bring the car home in the top 10, there might only be 10 finishes in this Grand Prix. So they might have a chance. Here's Capelli, 3rd position at the moment for the Leighton House team, as he runs in P3 behind Berger and Piquet. Capelli in 3rd place, Prost is 4th, Nannini in 5th ahead of Gugelmin, Rydell, Boutsen, Patrese and Derek Warwick in the Lotus.
And yes, there does seem to be that similar feeling to what we had around about the halfway mark, as Martin Donnelly strikes the wall there for the Lotus team, for the Camel Lotus team, that evocative yellow paint scheme on that car. I must say at this point, we do have some beautiful looking cars this year. Unfortunately, some of them are going to change their looks because of sponsorship deals that I believe have been signed at the last minute. So there may be a slightly different look to the field there. Donnelly seemed a bit slow round there. He was being caught by Suzuki. No, it wasn't Suzuki. He was being lapped. Sorry, that's on me. That was Piquet who was catching him, which would explain the pace difference, I guess, because there's a bit of in those 2 cars at the moment.
So the battle continues for Gerhard Berger out front. And that's Nannini! Nannini's crashed out. So Nannini's crashed out in that run to the final bend. So that's one of the Benettons gone now. So we've lost a McLaren, we've lost a Ferrari, we've lost a Benetton, and that's Aguri Suzuki escaping the scene. So he's been involved in that one. So every major team except Williams now has lost a driver. We've lost a McLaren, we've lost a Ferrari, we've lost a Benetton. So this is definitely going to be a race of who survives here at Phoenix. And it would not surprise me at all if the teams take one look at this place and think we need to redesign this layout at the very least. Either that or go somewhere else next year.
And again, it was the penultimate corner that the driver was in the wall. I'd be very interested to see to know from the team if Nannini was about to come into the pits, because that would again highlight the problem we've got at the pit lane entry potentially at this circuit. It's not the best thought out pit entry. It's right on board with Nelson Piquet in the sister car there. Obviously running in 2nd, Gerhard Berger 6.4 seconds. You could call it a comfortable lead, although once we take into account the fuel strategies and differences, that lead could evaporate in a pit stop really, couldn't it?
It's a good point, and it could be a pit stop. The difficulty, you talked about the pit lane entry, The difficulty here at Phoenix is that the pit lane entry is essentially part-way round the apex of the final left-hander, so you have to change lines part-way through, and it's quite tricky to get the entry point nailed because you have to pull the car slightly over to the left-hand side where the biggest bumps are, and that's where drivers are essentially losing control of their cars because they hit that bump because they're obviously preparing to come into the pit, as Prost really struggling to lap Martin Donnelly's Lotus. He has now done so around the outside, but look at the amount of time that Prost is losing to the likes of Berger, Piquet and Capelli as the Rini rubs the barrier this time. So Berger gets through, holding on to his lead of about 6 seconds to Nelson Piquet. But you do get the impression that this is going to be a rather unusual finishing order. You've got Capelli and Gugelmin running in the top 5 for Leighton House. Rydell and the Tyrrell on his debut running in the top 6. Boutsen and Patrese 7th and 8th for Williams. They still have a part to play in this one as Patrese has made the move on his teammate Thierry Boutsen, by the way. So Patrese gets through into 7th. Warwick is in 9th place for Lotus. Brundle in the Minardi is in P10 at the moment as Piquet drives around the outside of the Ligier, or at least tries to go around the outside of the Ligier to lap, I think that's Nicola Larini. Yes, it is. So Piquet's going to take a very dim view of Larini holding him up. And again, look, he's just pulled straight across on the 3-time world champion, down the straight, and nearly completely careens into the side of the Benetton. What is Nicola Larini playing at?
Well, obviously, now seems like, given the situation, as good a time as any to just remind first-time viewers that in Formula 1, as Larini goes into the wall, that was, to say it was a mistake would be an understatement. Ligier will not be happy with that. But to remind people who may be first-time viewers, blue flags do not exist. They exist in other forms of motorsport, but in Formula 1, we've shunned the idea of blue flags. If you're quick enough to get past, you'll get past the lapped traffic. It does mean there could be tactics between engine suppliers and customer teams, but it's all in sporting and all in good faith that should not happen. And at the same time, as we're explaining the blue flags, as Patrese decides to go for a move, I believe he's just trying to pass Boots and his teammate.
Oh, the Williams cars take each other off!
The Williams lock up. Boutsen locks up Wallace on the inside of Patrese in turn 1 and put him in the wall. That is Patrese looking like he could be out to be right on board with Patrese here. Yes, it's just a lock up from Boutsen into the tyres for Patrese, and is the Williams driver?
Yeah, he's out. He's out. They stalled the engine there. You can hear it on tick over, and Patrese is out of the race in an incident that really should not have happened between the two teammates there. That is rather sloppy driving from both of them. They're battling each other, and Patrese has ended up in the barrier and out of the race. That is disastrous, and that's exactly the worst kind of problem for a Grand Prix team manager. It's one thing when you're trying to make sure the cars go the distance, but when your drivers are tripping over each other, well, that's definitely not going to help, is it?
No, it's definitely not, and I would hate to be in the same room as team boss Topher Smith right now. And in fact, I believe Topher is actually listening to our commentary back in the pit garage, so maybe we can get him on the radio in a second just to explain what happened with that. I'm not sure if he's around, but he might come on. But as I was explaining, the points for this year as well. Obviously, we've had the Derek Warwick. This is all kicking off every time I talk about the points. It all goes crazy. The GoBobby.UK Cup that we had earlier, those points do not count towards the overall championship. They count towards that cup and qualify teams for the main Grand Prix. The point system is the same for the Grand Prix. The winner will get 15 points, second place 12, third 10, all the way down to 10th position who gets 1 point. At the moment, the championship leader is Ayrton Senna for taking pole position. You get 1 point for that. Obviously, he's not going to expand on that in this race, having retired. And the fastest lap also gets a point. But we have just been joined by Williams boss Topher Smith. Now, Topher, what happened there? What was going through your drivers' minds?
Well, both of those drivers are proven race winners. They are hard fighters, and they want to get as close to the front as they can. And unfortunately, 2 doesn't go into 1. Thierry tried to make the move on Ricciardo in this case, and he just locked up into the side of him. It looked like it was a simple driver error. I'm not at all happy with it. When I see my drivers race, I expect them to race fairly and cleanly. And in this situation, it didn't happen. Thierry made a mistake and went into the side of Ricciardo. I will be having words with him after the race. Just say, when you fight your teammate, just calm down a bit, give each other the room, and hopefully we won't have any of these incidents in the future.
So considering you guys had a bit of a fight back on your hands at Williams, and you had a golden opportunity, one of the only top four team from 1989 to still have 2 cars in the race and both firmly in the points, is this a missed opportunity for you guys?
I think it's difficult to say while we're still this early into the race. We're not even a half distance yet. I think the opportunity is definitely there, but the same can be said for any of the teams, really. We've seen that there have been quite a few drivers who have already dropped out, and, you know, it can happen to us as much as it can happen to any of the other teams. So I think if the opportunity was there for us to go for at least a podium, we would have liked to have taken it. But there's no way of telling how the rest of this race is going to pan out yet.
Okay, well, thanks, Topher. We've just witnessed Piquet get the jump on Capelli. So Piquet's just done an undercut move there on Ivan Capelli while they were lapping Derek Warwick's Lotus. So that was a perfectly opportunistic move from Nelson Piquet as he blasts his way into second place with some very quick thinking there, Sam. That's why he's a 3-time world champion.
Oh, exactly. I mean, Piquet doing nicely there, but I mean, you say we were just talking to Topher about Williams. As Berger just trying to lap Martin Brundle's Minardi there. I think he's on. Yep, he's managed to do that one. You were saying about Williams not taking the opportunity. Look at Leighton House. I know we keep talking about them. They are the story of this race, 3rd and 5th. They are seizing this opportunity as things stand, and we really don't want to curse them, so we won't talk about them too much. But what an achievement this would be on their Formula 1 debut.
If I'm the board of directors at Honda, I'm looking at this and thinking, hang on a minute, we put all this money into McLaren in the past, all this money into Brabham for the new season, all this money into Williams potentially moving forward as well. Leighton House, they've got a team that they can pretty much dominate and take over and commandeer. So there's a good potential for Honda in the future to have a look at this as perhaps a nice baby program to move drivers forward. Piquet running a very tight race in behind Brundle, but that's held him up. And obviously Berger having already lapped him. Piquet getting held up, and Capelli with a chance here as Gugelmin is going to come from a long way back to lap Eddie Cheever's Ligier. So he comes through. I think for Eddie Cheever this is quite demoralising, isn't it? When you're being lapped by a new boy in a Leighton House. Oh, Brundle holding up Piquet and actually tapping the Benetton as he came through there. Oh, and Brundle nudges the wall on that occasion, so Piquet gets through. Capelli is held up.
Yes, Brundle is one of the more experienced drivers, it must be said, in the GoBobby.UK Cup. And he got promoted into the race through the victory of teammate Martini. So, I mean, you would have thought a driver of that experience, he would learn to fight his own battles, which battles to fight, which battles not to fight, and when you're being lapped, it's certainly not a battle that you should fight, as Eric Bernard is pulling out. Is he trying to unlap?
That's Piquet!
Piquet's into the wall. It's that penultimate corner again. Is he coming into the pitch? Yes, he is. Again, he gets on the bumps. He gets on the bumps, loses the rear, hits the wall, and then he comes into the pits. Now, we want to see about an 8-second stop here, I reckon. And that will indicate he's going to stop one more time, probably around lap 57, 58. Come on, how are we? 8.5 seconds.
Yep.
Yes, he's going to stop one more time, I think.
That's about right for a 3-stop strategy, isn't it? And it's bang on the half-distance lap as well, lap 36 that he pitted in, so that would tally. Now, Capelli has dropped down. Prost has got through. Has Capelli got a problem? Yes, he does. Capelli is out. Oh, devastating. Capelli was going beautifully well up until that point. So Capelli in the Leighton House is now out of the race. And that is a possible podium for the little Leighton House team gone. Although it's his teammate Gugelmin who now picks up 3rd place.
It's certainly a shame for the team. I mean, what a brilliant drive from Capelli. Another one of those drivers to list alongside Alesi and Hakkinen, who have done so well this race, who have got so much potential. Obviously made a bit of a mistake earlier, but nothing that other drivers haven't done, other more experienced World Championship winning drivers. As Alain Prost hits the wall, Alain Prost to the wall, manages to carry on. Is that going to leave any lasting damage? I thought he was coming into the pits, let us go in those bumps that caught him out again. But no, I mean, 18 seconds off the lead. We've got a McLaren and a Ferrari in the lead, as we expected, if we're being entirely honest. But it's not necessarily the McLaren we would have expected.
No, it's not, as Warwick makes the move on Brundle and gets through into 8th position. It is 9th technically, but as they pass the scene of Capelli's parked up Leighton House, it's going to move up again as Prost has problems trying to lap Eric Bernard. So Bernard is causing him a massive headache, and this is where essentially Bernard is going to be questioned if he's not too careful as Suzuki spins off. Now, where on earth has Suzuki gone off? He's overshot at one of the apexes towards the end of the lap, but that's not the same corner that they normally go off, so that's Aguri Suzuki having a driving error there by the look of it. And Prost is on his own in 2nd place. He's finally started to stretch away from Warwick and Brundle. So I wonder if Bernard held them up. Oh, that's Modena. That's Modena in the Brabham. Now, what's happened to Stefano Modena? Has he had the same problem? Looks like it. There's the proof. There you go. Modena's hit the wall on the way into the pits. And like his teammate, Mika Hakkinen is now out of the race. That is such a shame for Stefano Modena and the entire Brabham team. No points from Phoenix.
No, I mean, I know team boss Ewan Gale was hoping for a strong return on his first race as the team boss with Brabham, but it just wasn't to be. They've looked like they've had pace, but not enough to challenge the front order, really.
Oh, that's Donnelly. That's Donnelly in the Lotus. Oh, dear, oh, dear. They're dropping out like flies now here at Phoenix, and Martin Donnelly, the Lotus new boy, becomes the latest to pull off the circuit and retire here at Phoenix. So we now go down to 12 runners. 12 drivers now left running this race. It's Berger who leads. Prost is 2nd, 22 seconds back. Piquet is 3rd. As into the pits comes Mauricio Gugelmin. Then it's Rydell, Boutsen, Warwick, Brundle, Larini, Cheever, and the 2 Lola Larusses of Suzuki and Bernard. That's it.
Now, I have received a bulletin from...
That's Boutsen!
Boutsen spun. Boutsen has spun. Again, it's those bumps. We can see the pit entry. He gets caught out on the bumps on the third last corner. Then, yes, straight into the wall. It's the bumps that catch them out. And I don't know why they keep spinning like that. It makes no sense at all, but they just do. I don't know whether they're spinning up the tyres to try and save it, but they just keep spinning there. And we are in, as I said, I've received a bulletin from the RRML. Berger's in the wall. Berger's had the same problem. Pit entry again. Pit entry. Berger's had exactly the same thing. Well, I have received a bulletin to say that the top 10 will receive points in this race, the same as the Go Bobby UK Cup.
I've had the same memo. I've had the same memo. It's going to be exactly the same because of the issues with the pit lane entry, the bumps there. It's clearly something that couldn't be ironed out in time for the races themselves. They probably didn't spot it at the time, but it's only really something I suppose that can be picked up with the benefit of hindsight. And into the race, there goes Bernard, and that's a much more dangerous position for Eric Bernard to be in. But he's got space, he can get himself going again, so Eric Bernard continues. But we've now got 3 of the big guns up in front. Prost, Berger, Piquet. Then it is Rickard Rydell in the Tyrrell, who is in 4th position ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin and Thierry Boutsen.
Now my fingernails are beginning to get a bit short. I mean, they've bit them already, but yeah, they're a bit short because we saw earlier on the last corner of the Bobby UK Cup earlier, Stefan Johansson grinding to a halt, and the driver 30 seconds behind him coming through to qualify for this race. It was quite something to see, as it was Eric Bernard who came through in the Lola, quite amazingly. So any driver who is still in this race is in with a shot of the podium. It doesn't matter if you're on the last lap, everyone could grind to a halt. And we've got Martin Brundle in 8th. We've got a Go Bobby.UK Cup driver in the top 10.
Another interesting stat, there's only 2 teams with 2 cars still operational, and they are Ligier with 2 cars, and as Brundle nudges the wall, Lola Larousse in 11th and 12th. So the 2 Ligiers and the 2 Lola Larousses are still circulating here at Phoenix as we ride on board with Eddie Cheever in the Ligier, looking at the final point at the moment, which will definitely put Ligier on the board as his teammate Larini comes into the pits. So Cheever now moved up and elevated into 9th position as Larini will come in. He'll probably drop behind Aguri Suzuki, and that's Warwick. He spins and strikes the wall in the Lotus, and that's going to be a problem because he's now going to need to get out of the way for Piquet as Berger retakes the lead in front of Alain Prost. So Prost, I think, has lost the lead of the race to Berger. Yes, indeed. So Prost was leading. Berger in second place. Prost has still got these handling issues in the Ferrari. You can see that the car is not quite responding the way it should be. So Prost is really struggling in that Ferrari in second place. And it's been like this all the way through.
Yes, this is the danger where McLaren clearly 3-stopping, Ferrari 2-stopping. Ferrari can't afford to bring him in. I mean, he's not in the lead. He's dropped another 4 seconds as I've been speaking there. What's going on in that Ferrari? But yeah, they can't afford to bring him in early because he's already lost the lead.
There we go.
He's in the wall
yeah,
again.
This is the same problem that befell Mansell. I wonder if it's a gearbox-related problem. But they're not. The thing is, they can't bring him into the pits. They've got to try and keep him out in the hope that he's just going to keep the car going and bring it home. He's lost another 4 seconds in that one sector. So the Ferraris, they've definitely got some kind of mechanical problems developing still. So this is a real knife edge for the Ferrari team. They've got to try and cure this early season because they will hemorrhage points to their opponents.
Now, who thought we'd be saying that Gugelmin and Rydell battling for 4th place? 2 completely unexpected drivers battling for some of the biggest points on offer. As Derek Warwick, once again, how many times are we going to see one of those Lotuses in the wall? Martin Donnelly was in the wall. Derek Warwick's been in the wall about 6-7 times already this race. I do think team boss Ryan Ferris is going to have a word with his drivers about the difference between the track and the wall. You drive on one, you drive on the other.
Well saved. Well saved by Nicola Larini.
Save of the race goes to Larini.
Yeah, absolutely. He suddenly felt the car listing as Gugelmin nips up the inside line. But he suddenly felt the car listing, locked it up on the brakes, but crucially, he kept it out of the wall. And that's a sign of relief for team manager Dave Goddard as Gerhard Berger pumps in the fastest lap of the race up front. And it's a 1 minute 20.3. So a good run so far from Berger, who's really taken advantage of this opportunity afforded to him now as he continues to stretch out the gap. Brundle again pinball wizarding around this circuit as he bounces off the wall. Wasn't coming into the pits, so just ended up a bit of a driver error there for Brundle. But 7th position for the Minardi driver. If he can hang on to it, that's good points in the championship for Minardi.
Yeah, Minardi are one of those teams sort of that they're expected to do well in the pre-qualifying race.
Oh, there goes Larini!
Into the wall. Larini, that's surely a retirement there.
Yes, it is.
No, yes, yeah, here come the marshals. We can see him running onto the track, pushing the car away. And then there were 11.
Yeah, he stalled the engine. That's the key problem for Larini. So that means now that Lola LaRousse have moved up into 10th position with Aguri Suzuki as we continue with Thierry Boutsen in the Williams as he runs through in P6. There's Prost, absolutely hemorrhaging time again to Nelson Piquet, who is catching him very quickly. It looks as though whatever issue Prost had, it is settling itself again. And he's getting back to his normal racing line, but he does have problems with that Ferrari. It's not quite right yet as Rydell loses ground. And, well, has Rydell got a problem developing now?
From what I believe, Rydell is... No, he's not... the team were lying to me. They were telling me from the pit wall that he would be coming into the pits at some point soon. So whether that was to put my nerves at ease, seeing that on the screen is unknown. He seems to be locking up here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, Rydell's got problems.
Very similar to the problem that.
And Brundle's out. Brundle's out. Something's happened to Martin Brundle. So Brundle in the Minardi appears to be out of the race. It's the same problem again. Same place, same location. And Brundle's gone straight on there at the final turn on the way to the pit lane. So Brundle out of the race in the Minardi, and that has cost them big points. They will now not score. What this does mean, though, is that Carter McCollman and the Lola LaRousse team are guaranteed a minimum of 3 points in the Lola LaRousse.
Oh, it's ridiculous, this race, isn't it? I'm looking at it as a team owner now, or as a team boss, going, oh, at least we've got a point from this race. It doesn't matter what happens now. We're ready 3 points.
I think every team has kind of written off the American Grand Prix. What a banzai way to start 1990.
Yes, I have heard that some you were mentioning circuits or alternate venues for the race, and I've heard some team principals saying that Willow Springs is a track they'd like to go to. Personally, I don't see the problem with going back to Indianapolis. So actually making the 500 part of the championship as Berger. They're just lapping a couple of cars, lapping the sole remaining.
Cool, that was a moment.
He seems to be going for him. Did he not learn from taking on his teammate?
Oh,
there?
Rydell rubs the wall. Now, Boutsen was trying to unlap himself from Gerhard Berger because Berger was hesitating behind a back marker. I wonder if the Williams is just trying to be a little bit, well, cheeky in trying to find its feet around the course. So a bit of a moment there from Boutsen. Here's Prost in front of Nelson Piquet, but only by about a second and a half. The Benetton reeling him in. But yeah, this race is full of attrition, full of chaos, and Berger, despite all of the problems around him, is just sustaining it. He's just hanging in there in the McLaren, as now Berger laps Rydell, the new boy in the Tyrrell, the young Swedish driver who was in British Formula 3 for a couple of rounds in 1987, was in the International F3000 for a couple of weekends last year. He's kind of popped up on the radar of Grand Prix racing very, very quietly as Suzuki rubs the wall. But you had full confidence in Rickard Rydell, despite them being a bit of a wild card choice for the season, but it seems that he's returned on his expectations you had for him.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it would be a bit unfair to say that we had any expectations on him, because you bring a rookie into the team who's relatively untested, and you just say, sort of, right, go out there, don't make any mistakes, or maybe make as few as you can, and just try and bring the car home. If you reach the finish, that's the aim. So today for him especially really wasn't about scoring any points. It was just about getting the experience, getting to the flag, and I mean, looking at the levels of attrition again in this race, whether he can get to the flag is a complete unknown right now. As I'm left wondering, has any driver not hit the wall today? I think every single driver has been in the wall at least one point.
I think you're right.
Not to mention the Guri Suzuki, who's been in quite heavily 3 or 4
Oh, and there's
times.
Rydell. Rydell loses the place to Boutsen. Boutsen gets through, so Boutsen in the Williams passes Rydell. So a bit of a mistake there for the Swede, and that's Thierry Boutsen up into P5. But yeah, Nelson Piquet lapping a Guri Suzuki and shaking his fist at the Japanese driver as he passes through. So a very tough battle at the moment as the competitors continue on their way. Rydell really struggling, as here's Alain Prost now in second place. He's actually pulling away a bit from Nelson Piquet, so whatever issues he had, the Ferrari has come back to him a little. Oh, a big stop there through the corner though. So, oh, that's Rydell in the Tyrrell. He's hit the wall, so both the Tyrrells will fail to finish. So that's 1 point for the Tyrrell team today, because Rickard Rydell will drop to 10th, and that's where he'll be classified as Alain Prost pits in. So that's both Tyrrells out of the race, and only a 10th place finish on the board then for Rickard Rydell. What a devastating turn of events.
It's only 10th place if Suzuki and Bernard can make it through the next lap.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, if they don't make it, then we might get a couple of extra points. But like I say, he's got a point. Obviously not happy with 2 retirements. But at this circuit, I mean, it's more luck than judgment, really, isn't it? And hopefully we'll see. I mean, I know the next track we're going to is quite a bumpy one again. So it might be a similar picture there, where you take your opportunities or you don't.
Well, I suppose the difference, I suppose, with Rio, for example, the difference, I suppose, is that you actually do have some grass runoff. You know, if you go off the circuit, in theory, you won't just hit a wall. You will have, you know, opportunities to move forward. That's the problem here. The walls are so close, and this is such a fast street circuit compared to Monaco, say, for example. It's wider here than Monaco, so it lulls a driver into a false sense of security that they can push harder, and therefore the mistakes creep in more.
Yes, but these are supposed to be some of the best drivers in the world. I mean, we've got, I can't remember how many teams we've got at the moment, but we've got sort of 50, 60 of the best drivers in the world. And you don't expect to see mistakes on the level that we've seen this week. Yes, we can blame the circuit to a certain degree, but I think the drivers all have to look at themselves a bit and go, well, hang on, sort of, why were we in the wall so many times? Even should Berger win this race, how many? he made very, very heavy contact with the wall, and he should be looking at himself and saying, well, why did I make that mistake? Don't get me wrong, a lot of the drivers do some self-analysis of the race, but there's got to be some heavy thinking going on from the teams and the drivers after this. I don't really know how to describe this race. How would you best describe this opening weekend, Jake?
I think pandemonium is the best word that springs to mind.
Pandemonium, chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely. Alain Prost, third position at the moment, 45 seconds off the leader Berger following his pit stop. But I think that might be his only pit stop before the end of the race. I think Berger and Piquet have both got to come into the pits again, and that's the Ferrari. Prost is gone. Prost is gone. There will not be a Ferrari on the podium. There will not be a Ferrari victory to start the year. And, well, the handling issues, whatever it was that was causing the Ferrari to be very fragile, oh, that looks like a suspension failure. So, big problems there for Prost, and both Ferraris are now out of the US Grand Prix of 1990. 2 points on the board for Ferrari. Not a great return for their efforts today.
No, most certainly not. And, I mean, we've got Gugelmin back on the podium. And Boutsen, after being last, or as good as last after the first lap, is somehow in fifth. He could be on the podium a lap down. I mean, he'll go up to fourth if he can complete one more circuit and get back ahead of Prost on the road. But he's looking at a podium here without finishing on the lead lap.
It's a very good point. So we've got Rydell in the Tyrrell, confirmed as 10th. Provided that Suzuki, Bernard, Cheever and Warwick complete the lap, you're going to have Prost in 9th position. He'll take 2 points, which is still 1 point ahead of Ayrton Senna in the Drivers' Championship. So he could take that into the Brazilian Grand Prix next time out. Prost is a point ahead of Senna in the Drivers' Championship. So that's certainly a better position than he thought he'd find himself in out of this race when Senna was 3/10 quicker than him in qualifying. But of course, it's exactly the same situation as the last race, the Australian Grand Prix of 1989, with both Prost and Senna retiring. It happened again there, and it looks as though, well, that trend is continuing, certainly for the moment. Berger leads, Piquet in second, Gugelmin is third, Boutsen is fourth, albeit a lap down. Eddie Cheever is going to be fifth in the Ligier ahead of Derek Warwick, and then the two Lola LaRousses of Suzuki and Bernard, and they are the only 8 cars still running here in Phoenix.
Yes, and you were talking about the championship implications already, sort of race one, where we shouldn't be talking about the championship and race one, we should just be talking about the individual race. But I mean, both drivers, both Prost and Senna, will be looking at Gerhard Berger and going, oh no, he's in the same car as Senna, he's got the same machinery, and I believe he's got the fastest lap at the moment as well. We'll find that out at the end of the race.
Yes, he does.
He could be finishing the race on 16 points. He could be 15 points ahead of his teammate. A whole race win ahead of his teammate after one race. And for Senna, that thought will be just unbearable. For Prost, being 13, 14 points off the championship lead after one race. Again, unthinkable, but luck can change. It can change at the toss of a coin. I mean, we were talking about Capelli being the lead Latham House driver earlier, and now Gugelmin's odds on to get them the podium, you'd assume.
And of course, Alain Prost, like Nelson Piquet, is a 3-time world champion. Won the title in 1985, 86 and 89. He is the reigning world champion as Suzuki pits in from P7, as Eric Bernard has just been lapped for the 3rd time by Gerhard Berger. So the Lola LaRousse cars definitely needing a little bit of interesting battles going on. Now, an interesting question has been raised by the Acela team manager, Edward Hunter. Shouldn't the 1990 Grand Prix take place at Interlagos and not Rio de Janeiro? Now, obviously it is currently slated to be taking place at Rio de Janeiro, but with the current debates going on about, you know, bumpy circuits and the way that things currently are, the very nature of the circuit at present, is this a good argument? Could they even slate moving the Brazilian Grand Prix to somewhere a little bit more appeasable, like Interlagos, rather than Rio de Janeiro?
Well, we have been. I know contact has been made with each of the teams about holding a two-day test at Interlagos. I believe half the teams are going to be at Interlagos, half of them are supposed to be at Rio, and then we'll come back with the feedback and see which track is the best, because after the GoBobby.UK Cup earlier, and we saw the problems that the bumpy track caused for these cars, problems that can't be fixed in the short term. So yeah, there are plans to look into this as a possibility, I believe.
But the good thing is that, again, that sort of accentuates the collaborative nature of the Grand Prix World Championship, this new union between the teams and the officials running the series in 1990. It's all very much about a collective effort as everybody gets to work together to make the sport a better place to race in. So it's not just the draconian arm. Oh, as Berger crashes out! Berger crashes from the lead! Now, can he get the car going again? That's the big question.
He has stalled that car. He's out, I believe.
No, he's got it. He's kept the engine running. He can get it going. Gerhard Berger is the luckiest man in Phoenix. He manages to get it going.
The fuel light on. He was coming into the pits.
Yeah.
How has he not learned that? We're on lap 51 of the Grand Prix. We saw everything that happened in the earlier races. We've seen it happen repeatedly here. How is he? This is what I was on about when saying the drivers need to look at themselves. He's clearly going to the end of the race with that fuel strategy. But I mean, the drivers need to look at themselves and go, we're so far into this race, why are we making the same mistakes?
Well, Gugelmin has made the pit stop as well, I think, and that's now dropped him into the path of Thierry Boutsen. Berger rejoins in second place, about 15 seconds behind Nelson Piquet, as Boutsen gets a look on the inside of Bernard to lap him again. So this is going to be a fascinating end to the race for Lola LaRousse. They're going to have two cars in the points whatever happens now. They're the only team who's going to have that accolade, which is quite an amazing fillet for team boss Carter McCollman. As up the inside there goes Boutsen to lap the Lola LaRousse. So a fascinating situation for the team. They've just kept their cars running. And that's all it takes at this point. Just keep the cars running whatever happens. But the two Lola LaRousses are still circulating around.
And this was the approach they had to the race earlier. I mean, as we said, they only qualified for this race by the fact the car 30 seconds ahead of them. I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
The car 30 seconds ahead of them retired at the last corner.
At the last
Stefan
corner,
Johansson
yeah.
could have got out of the car and pushed it across the line. He had so much time.
And it's
he
a good.
Could have got out and run across the
Well,
line,
yeah.
but he didn't.
It's a very good point made as well by the team boss Carter McCollman, who sent us a message saying Aguri Suzuki must have a nosebleed in 7th place because in the Go Bobby race he didn't even complete a lap because he was out, of course, in that conflagration to the first corner that wiped out 3 drivers. Suzuki was one of them. So a big problem there in the start of the pre-qualifying race. But Gerhard Berger running in 2nd place, trying to chase down the 3-time world champion Nelson Piquet in the, we now have to call it the Roundtrees Benetton, of course, because they're going to have a new colour scheme in time for the 2nd round of the championship, which we're told is in Brazil. Whether it's going to be on the Jacarapagua-based circuit at Rio de Janeiro, or whether it's going to be at the Autodromo Carlos Pache at Interlagos in Brazil, just outside Sao Paulo, we'll have to figure it out. But I think the teams will have an interesting discussion about which circuit they should be running on.
Yes, no, it'll be interesting to see what the teams come up with. I'm not sure which circuit we're supposed to be heading to conduct our test.
I think you'll get told, won't you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we say there's no iron fist. There is an iron fist in some respects, as all sport needs. But no, I mean, we don't. No one wants to see a race where.
Oh, that's Warwick.
And Derek Warwick. Oh, how many times has he hit the wall and his front wings survived it? I really want to know where they get their front wings made because we might need a couple of those.
Well, interestingly, Warwick locked up and has been lapped by Thierry Boutsen. Now, Boutsen is in 4th, Warwick is in 6th. So that just shows you the dissimilarities in pace between some of these cars.
Yes, no one wants to see a race with 6 cars as early or 7 cars as we've got at the moment because the for some reason, they seem to be quite close to each other on the track, even though they're a number of laps apart. Here we look at Gugelman, and he's on his own. Is he coming into the pits? No, it's just the line.
That's the thing. It's a good point you make there, because we've got 18 laps still to go, and we've only got 8 cars running. So it's a fascinating situation. Perhaps Phoenix is not really a prime Formula 1 location. There is rumours of a couple of the IndyCar tracks being given a chance to have a go, and obviously there's an awful lot of them in terms of road courses, such as Mid-Ohio, there's Portland, there's Road America, Elkhart Lake, a lot of great road courses. Obviously Laguna Seca comes to mind as well. Grand Prix cars around Laguna Seca, that would be something, wouldn't it? As we've got a tasty issue for Piquet, the race leader. He's got Warwick swarming around all over the place as he tries to stay in front, and Warwick's still struggling with that Lotus. And
well,
he's
just before that happened,
oh dear.
Say, don't worry, he'll get past Warwick because Warwick will put it in the wall.
And well, he did
he
twice actually. I'm not entirely sure what that Lotus is made of, but certainly that car is incredibly strong because he's had so many brushes with the barrier now.
I think in post-race scrutineering there is a chance that car may get looked at because...
Oh, there's Bernard!
And then there were 6.
Yeah, well, yes indeed, Bernard.
We can hear the
goodness.
Oh, he's lost the wheel. He's not just stalled it, he's lost the wheel.
Well, he was in 8th place anyway. He was in 8th place anyway, so he doesn't lose that position, that's for sure. But for Eric Bernard and the Lola LaRousse team, the bubble is burst a little as they're now down to just 7 cars. Piquet leads, Berger second, and that's Boutsen spinning again as the Williams drops it on the way into the pit lane.
Again, I think we should give up talking about the pit lane entry because we can't change anything about that now. I mean, as we said, drivers should have learned this now. But with the Lola LaRousse team, I mean, Carter McColman is going to be over the moon with this performance. I mean, even though they've got a car retired, it's retired in the points. It's still scoring points. They've got a double points haul, which they would never have expected this coming into this weekend. I know for a fact that they focus on the GoBobby.UK Cup, and the main championship is just sort of a bonus.
I think
the same for all the qualifying teams.
Sam, I think we're going to have our first race protest at the end of a race here because Carter McColman's made a statement on the bulletin board. Derek Warwick cost Eric Bernard a finish. All over the place, very dangerous. He blames Warwick for that manoeuvre because he was on the track at about the same time as Eric Bernard. So could there be a little bit of a war brewing between Lotus and LaRousse?
Well, at that point, I believe they were together allowing Nelson Piquet, the race leader, to lap them. And obviously we saw Warwick went into the wall twice in a row. And we didn't pick it up at the time, and we will have I believe the stewards will have a look at that after the race is finished. They'll go back and have a look at that. Whether he went and blocked Bernard, I'm not sure. I didn't see it myself, but I believe the stewards will go back and look. If he was found to do that, I mean, could he drop out? Could he be disqualified from the race? I don't know what you do there.
It's a difficult one,
whether
isn't it?
It would be a position drop. Potentially, Minardi may join the protest and say, yes, disqualify him, we want a point. This is where the game, as we were saying, how happy families everything is.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Suddenly changes, doesn't it, once the teeth come out.
Yeah,
we had a similar situation against Renault before, I believe, where they got disqualified, much to the dissatisfaction of Andrew Sanson.
Oh, well, there goes the Ligier. Yeah, there goes the Ligier of Chiva, runs wide and drops now behind Gugelmin's car. The big story at the moment is Gerhard Berger because he is chipping away at the advantage of Nelson Piquet. He's gaining about half a second per sector at the moment as Eddie Chiva brings the Ligier into the pits from P5. It's looking like Piquet is going to have to work very hard to get away from Berger, and Piquet is making his way to the pits, rubs the wall. So Piquet comes in, and that is just as well, really, because there could have been damage to the Benetton, but he's okay, and Berger is going to go sailing through to take the lead. The big question now is, can Piquet sustain second position over Mauricio Gugelmin in the Leighton house. Here's the pit stop. 7 seconds, 8 seconds. It's a longer than necessary stop for Benetton. Beyond the 8-second threshold that we've predicted for being right, so they have a problem at Benetton.
I wonder if there was some front wing damage due to that.
Yeah, they must have done.
Contact. Because I was going to say, what gave it away that he was on his way into the pits?
Very good point.
But yes, obviously Gerhard Berger came in with 20 laps remaining in the race. PK, 19 seconds behind, almost 20 seconds, but has 6 less laps to do on his tyres. Now that isn't enough of a difference, really, I don't think, to be able to catch Berger and potentially challenge for the win. So my fear is that is the race for the win. He's 24 seconds off now, obviously factoring in the pit exit time. The times have just updated for us, but yes, I fear that could be the battle for the win and indeed the podium with the gaps between second to third and third to fourth. I fear that could be those battles coming to a close unless reliability kicks in, as we've seen a decent amount of this race, with only 7 of the starting drivers remaining.
So Gerhard Berger having taken over the lead after the pit stop for Nelson Piquet, who rejoins in second place in the Benetton. Then Gugelmin in third. Whoops, Derek Warwick finds the wall again, just in front of the Brazilian. So Nelson Piquet should get his move on Derek Warwick a little later, although Piquet hesitating a little bit. I wonder if Warwick's car is finally dying the death. The Lotus Lamborghini trying its best to get to the finish, but clearly it's had more scrapes with the wall than a kid in a skate park. So this is turning into quite an incredible day at the races for Derek Warwick for all the wrong reasons, as Gugelmin continues his incredible performance here. Gugelmin running in third position as they come out of the final turn and down the main straight, but Gugelmin in the Leighton house, it's still running a-okay for the moment.
I was just considering how many times it's possible to say Gugelmin in one sentence. It seems
point.
to be quite easy to do it many times in one sentence. Don't take it as a challenge.
No, absolutely. In the same way that you can say sentence several times in one sentence.
Yes, you can. Brilliant. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Berger leading by almost half a minute to Nelson Piquet in front of Gugelmin. Boutsen in fourth place for Williams. They're just one place away from the rostrum. They're probably wondering how tight the throttle cable lines are in those McLarens or Benettons, because there's a good chance of a podium for Williams here despite all of their travesties earlier on. Chiva running well in the Ligier in fifth.
Given that Ricardo Patrese and the other Williams was running with Boutsen at the time of the incident, obviously Boutsen not really an innocent party in that incident and the retirement. Williams must be thinking what could have been in this race. They didn't suffer a reliability problem. It was the drivers that had brain fade and let them down potentially from a podium. There's no further change to the order. But I am hearing that the stewards are considering showing a black and white warning flag to Derek Warwick because of his repeat incidents and collisions with the wall. They're considering warning him. Just go, look, calm down. Don't do this again. You're probably being investigated after the race. Just don't give us anything else to beat you with, really.
So this is a fascinating race battle still going on up at the front end of the field. It looks like it's done and dusted, but I promise you it isn't. With 12 laps still to go, there's Warwick again, having his moments, very much adding up into the double figures the way things are currently rolling up for Derek Warwick. So he's got to be incredibly careful. So this is a very frustrating day at the races for many reasons, but that's definitely not going to help the cause.
I'm trying to see if he's got another car around him, Warwick, because when he went into the wall that last time, as Gugelmin goes into the wall himself as well, this is the forever asked question about track limits. So imagine there's walls there. Those are the track limits. Imagine there's walls. You put walls there and they still try to exceed track limits. It's wonderful. Only a racing driver would think like that. But yes, now we're looking at Nelson Piquet running a comfortable second. He's pulled 2 seconds roughly back on the race leader Gerhard Berger, but I think Berger may just be trying to manage the gap with 11-12 laps left of the race. Another lock up from from Derek Warwick. Somehow, you just get the feeling he's going to finish this race despite all the contact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fair play to him. He's still trying his hardest, isn't he? He clearly feels that the only way the Lotus is going to get a top 6 finish is if he just keeps pedaling it. But he's literally going to rip this car apart in order to get there, the way things are currently going. PK in second place, 22 seconds back from Gerhard Berger. Reliability from the Ford engine. I mean, okay, Nannini didn't quite have it the same way, but the Ford engine's been very reliable. A lot of people have ditched the Ford engine for the start of this season in favour of other engines, particularly the Hondas that have been snapped up by a couple of teams. But the Ford engine, it is still fairly reliable, and it seems to really bring home some good finishes. For PK, he doesn't seem to have too much of a sweat broken at the moment.
No, it does seem to be performing better than expected, which could come back to haunt some teams, present company included. I've just made a note that lap 63, you made a note of Ford's reliability, so I'm just seeing how quickly that comes back.
It's a good point.
So Nelson PK, just if you're listening, if you can hear us, lap 63.
Well, let's put it this way.
No one said anything.
Let's put it this way, because you've got a Ford engine in second place, you've got a Ford engine in fifth place, you've got a Ford engine in seventh place. So there are still decent performances coming through there, and there are more Ford engines still running in this race than there are any other engine supplier. So you do the math and go figure. You know, they're not all reliable cars yet, but in terms of engines, the Ford, which is very loosely based still on the old DFE power unit, I'll say power unit, the very old DFE engine that was brought in 1967, much under the tutelage of the influence of Colin Chapman and the boys at Cosworth. But that engine is still very much in position at that sort of phrase, so it's not bad at all. I'm just trying to remember if the Lola has the Lamborghini engine or the Ford engine. I'm fairly sure they still have the Ford engine that they have brought in for this season. Or am I wrong in thinking that? Yeah, no, the Lola does have the Ford engine at this point. Although there were rumours that they were going to stick with the Lamborghini from last year. But the LaRousse Lola still doing a fine job at the moment. Although there is a interesting discussion going on ahead of Brazil. Teams are allowed to change engines mid-season if they wish to, but they're only allowed to do so once in the year. Once they've made the change, that is the engine they've got to stick with. So the likes of Leighton House, also Brabham, that had Judd contracts at the beginning of the year, they ditched those, decided to go for Honda after a nice injection of cash from their primary sponsors in both cases. I hear talk that Williams is already considering ditching the Renault engine after just one race of this season, and obviously into the second year of the Renault contract. That would mean that Reynard would essentially become the sole Renault engine customer. Now that would be an interesting one for Reynard, because they would essentially get all the Renault secrets moving forward as a new race team. That could be an interesting program.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who does what in the engine
and of course,
market.
Would that turn into perhaps another renewed bid for a factory race team for Renault?
It could do. We've seen Renault have got a relationship where one minute they want to be in F1, the next minute they don't.
Yeah.
So it will certainly be interesting to see that sort of thing. I mean, we're trying to get in talks with various companies. I won't disclose any identities of these companies because it's not the appropriate forum to do so, but we're in talks with several companies and manufacturers to try and get manufacturer backing. I think if you were a Formula One team, you weren't trying to do that. You're in a way a little bit foolish, because you see what the likes of Ferrari can do with the full factory backing. And running a factory engine program as well. The benefits are just there, they're obvious. So I don't think it's revelatory that we're trying to do that ourselves. To be honest, I've heard that McLaren would consider making their own engines in the future as well. Probably based on the Honda one, because it's clearly
I've heard that rumour, yeah, but then I've also heard that there's consideration for McLaren to possibly be in discussions and talks with BMW to bring them back into the world of Formula One. That rumour's been doing the mill for a little while, because apparently one of their main people, Gordon Murray, who's been poached obviously from Brabham in years gone by, he wants to get himself working on a new road car, which would be a fascinating outlet for McLaren if that would be a conversation to obviously have. And you know, they obviously want to talk to a road manufacturer who's got good experience of building good sports car engines. There might have been some talk about Porsche, but now that Porsche have entered Formula One with their team boss Scott Woodward's choosing the likes of Paul Warwick and Alain Menu for their cars, that season for them, 1990, for them could be a year of discovery and exploration as far as their development through the Grand Prix circus looms. 6 laps to go, and Berger is doing a fine job out in front of Nelson Piquet as he continues on his way. But Berger is not far away from lapping this man, Mauricio Gugelmin, so he could lap everybody up to 3rd place. Did he just nudge the wall there? I think he did.
I believe he did nudge the wall there. I think he's pushing as hard as he can to remain on the lead lap. Because, yes, finishing on the podium is brilliant, but if you're finishing a lap down and you're only on the podium because of reliability of others, I don't know, does it take away some of the satisfaction? Probably not for the team. But he's all over the track. I was just watching, looking forward there. He was all over the track in a fashion similar to what Prost
Look
was.
how quickly Berger has caught him up.
This is what we don't want to see. There's so few cars running. You're not in a race with them. Just let them through. You're not going to lose your position. Yes, you're a lap down, but for a team like Leighton House, and I say don't mean any disrespect with that, for a team like Tyrrell as well, we'd be happy being on the podium, being a lap down. But yes, it's a moment for them, assuming fingers crossed and everything, as he locks up again. I wonder if there's a problem. I'll just bring him in to change tyres on that car. It seems all over the place right now.
But they've got to be careful, because Boutsen, whilst he has been lapped by the race leader, he's not that far ahead. Boutsen is not that far behind Gugelmin, so they are obviously trying to keep the Leighton House out as long as possible to try and sustain this 3rd place. But Boutsen is not a million miles away in position. I think Piquet's had a spin, potentially. I'm just trying to figure out where... Oh no, Gugelmin is trying to get... Gugelmin gets out of the way of Berger by rubbing the wall. So that's not ideal. Look, there's Boutsen. That's how close Gugelmin is to losing this 3rd place to Thierry Boutsen. There's only a corner behind him, so Gugelmin, they're just trying to keep this car going. So actually being lapped by Berger is an advantage, because it's one less lap for the Leighton House to complete, being caught by the Williams.
I do wonder whether the original plan involved another stop, and they've just run the tyres beyond what they can cope with.
It's
and
possible.
They're now going, no, we can't stop. We're in the podium position. We can't throw this away.
Well, because they've got no choice, have they? Because if they pit now, they're going to lose a good half a minute.
Yeah,
and there's Gugelmin. There's the Williams. The Williams going through. Boutsen gets into the podium position. Boutsen takes on the Leighton House. No, he doesn't. He has to hang back. So they are battling for 3rd.
This turn 1. We've seen what can happen at turn 1. And Gugelmin was a decent distance ahead, but he's all over the place. He's so... here we go. Here's the move. No.
Round the outside. Yes, he's done it. He's done it. Boutsen gets it. Round the outside of Gugelmin, and Boutsen in the Williams gets through into 3rd place. Absolutely terrific driving from the Belgian, and he's just left Gugelmin standing on the back straight there, just when we thought all of the race action had fizzled out and it was just about getting it home. Thierry Boutsen, who had spun in the early stages of this race, has now fought his way into 3rd position, and now Piquet is coming up to lap Gugelmin.
Yeah, it'll be, considering the internal team fine that's probably coming Boutsen's way, I suspect the trophy may make up for it somehow.
What is Gugelmin doing? Trying to come back at Piquet, having just been lapped by him. Oh, he had to get out of the throttle there because he almost turned in too early and struck the wall. So
I wonder if there's got to be some frustration under that helmet now. Obviously, in the podium positions for so long, and then just the disappointment. I wonder if his tyres have got to be gone He's annoyed. It's just a cocktail for mistakes now. It's easier said than done, but the team have got to try and calm him down. Just say, look, you've done a brilliant job. We're getting some brilliant points. Just bring it home. Bring it home.
So PK, 11 seconds back from Berger. It's not out of the woodwork. And actually, Remco van Engelen has sent us a message saying, you need to keep an eye on this because Berger is losing ground to PK. PK has been steadily catching Gerhard Berger for a while now. The gap is only 11 seconds. Berger, I think, was quite lucky that he got through the traffic of Boutsen and Gugelmin the way he did because PK was catching him quite quickly. If Berger has any problems in these last 2 laps or so coming up, as Gugelmin again nudges the barrier, then PK is right there for plucking. He's got the gap down to less than 11 seconds now. PK doing his best to try and close up. He still feels there's a chance here with 3 laps to go, including this one.
Yes, I mean, it's down to just over 10 seconds, or 10.8 seconds at the moment. Is Berger just easing it back, just going, I'm on my way to the line. 5 seconds a lap I can lose. I mean, if there's another 7 or 8 laps, maybe be a bit more concerned. There goes another 3/10 in the final sector. We can see a car ahead of PK, but that's Thierry Boutsen, that's not Berger. So he's got lap track. I mean, he's got a lap car into it. Be right on. I'm a particular fan of this camera angle, Jake. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
just looking into the driver's helmet.
It does look pretty awesome, this new position for 1990. It really does look the business as we watch on board with Thierry Boutsen, and you can see just how hard he's pushed to get back from the tail end of the field after an early transgression in the race to fight his way back into 3rd position. The Williams team can be very happy with the job Boutsen's done, but they'll be ambivalent because obviously their little misunderstanding earlier, they could easily have put 2 Williams cars on the podium today. They're going to put one of them there. So I think Boutsen essentially trying to lessen the dressing down by fighting his way back into a podium position. See, I got third. It's okay. You don't have to shout at me. I'm all right. I did okay today.
Yeah, here's a trophy. Be nice to me. Be nice to me, and then run out the back of the garage. Something along those lines. I am hearing that although Ferrari team boss Chris Cavani remains at the circuit, the rest of the team, the cars, the garage, the trucks have all disappeared.
Yeah, they've all gone.
They're not happy at all. They've all disappeared. In fact, I can see them just outside. They've got to wait for they thought they could get a steal and march and everything, but they've got to wait for the track to close. It's a street circuit. What did they expect?
That's right. Yeah, they can't leave the premises until they get access to. But Berger is on the final lap here at Phoenix. It's been a crazy weekend to start the 1990 Grand Prix season. We had all sorts of chaos and tension in the pre-qualifying race, but now at long last the last lap is upon us, and Gerhard Berger is going to start his 1990 campaign in perfect fashion by winning the opening Grand Prix of the 1990 season, and that really does kickstart the Austrians' attack to go for a world championship. Last year he barely finished a race for Ferrari. He made the switch to McLaren in the hope that it would change his fortunes. It certainly has worked out that way for the Austrian as he comes through in the final couple of corners now here in Phoenix, Arizona, on one of the toughest street circuits the sport has ever witnessed. Hold a Grand Prix out of the final turn, and Gerhard Berger wins the 1990 US Grand Prix at Phoenix and starts the 1990 season in heroic fashion. Suzuki behind him crosses the line 3 laps down in 7th place. Boutsen gets the podium that Williams wanted from this season opener. PK almost laps him, and Gugelmin is going to come out of the final turn. He finally brings the Leighton house home in 4th position. A good race in the end for the team. They could bag some useful points. What about this man, Eddie Cheever, on home soil? The Americans have something to cheer as Eddie Cheever will bring the Ligier home in P5 ahead of Derek Warwick.
And I will be completely honest there, I completely forgot Eddie Cheever was still in the race. He's had such a quiet race. He's not been in the wars. To be honest, I was a bit surprised that he had a seat in the championship, and then Derek Warwick comes around the final couple of corners. I suspect he's in for a world of pain as soon as he gets out of the car. Maybe he'll keep lapping the track, just, you can't pull me in, I'm staying out here. But no, I completely forgot Eddie Cheever was doing that. That's a brilliant job. Surprised.
Oh, Berger broke down on the rolling lap. Look at that.
Yeah,
Berger broke down on the rolling lap. I think he ran out of fuel.
Yeah, you don't see that often. So who are we waiting to come around? It's Thierry Boutsen. There we go. There he is. He's just crossed the line to confirm his third place on the
So
podium.
Gerhard Berger ran out of fuel on the rolling down lap. That's how close McLaren were pushing it. But yeah, an incredible race, and you can see there again, only 7 cars brought it home. 10 will score points though, as Bernard, Prost and Rydell will score championship points, which means that McLaren, Benetton, Williams and Ferrari do all score in the opening season race. Leighton House, Ligier, Lotus and Lola, all the L's also pick up points, as does Tyrrell for Rickard Rydell in 10th. But look at some of the names that didn't finish this crazy race, and all due to crashes. Now, Senna had a gearbox problem. That's what put him out of the race then. Transmission failure, you can see. So that is the official classification for why Senna retired from the race. I did wonder if he lost it, or what you touted whether there was a mechanical problem. But it was a gearbox failure in the end.
Yeah, no, with Senna, where it pushed him, or where it looks though he'd maybe locked up, but that might explain it. If he couldn't shift down the gears, then so he was stuck trying to go slightly too fast around the corner. I believe we're now going to try and speak to a few of the team bosses, myself aside.
Indeed. Well, let's ask your reaction from that race, because you showed that the cars have good pace, even if they didn't come to the finish. So a point, obviously, for Rickard Rydell, but Alesi proving he could be a race winner this year.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I'd go as far as race winner. I know we've got enough budget, or a large amount of budget within the team. So not scoring the prize money from this race isn't entirely as problematic for us as I know it will be for Ferrari. I know Ferrari have got some severe budget problems this year. So there's a chance we might actually leapfrog Ferrari into the next window.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a solid race from both the drivers. Yes, there are mistakes. Yes, we scored 1 point through a fortunate quirk in the rules. But this is Formula One. This happens. And you've got to take advantage of situations when they arrive. Chris Cavani has joined us, the Ferrari boss. I just talked about us hoping that we can leapfrog your 2 cars in the next one. What went wrong for you today? It just didn't seem to work.
Yeah, reliability was a bit of an issue for us, especially our suspension. I mean, at least I can say the drivers didn't fault for that. But we do have money come in because Coloni chose Ferrari's engines at the last minute, so we get an extra 3 million rather than being in zilch. So I think our competition with you will be a little bit closer than you may expect. Having said that, I don't think I want to spend so much money quickly, because I just want to make sure that the car, we find out where we are. And obviously where we are is not good. But one swallow doesn't make a summer. It's just the first race. I mean, I'm not particularly happy or unhappy about what happened today.
So exactly, but Nigel Mansell's problems. I mean, he was driving all over the track. What was happening with him? Was there actually a problem with the car, or was it just tires? What was going on with Mansell?
I think it may have been a tyre issue. I think on that one, he may have seen that he had some lockups here and there. I think, and him dueling with Patrese, I believe it was, or one of the Williamses, literally going back and forth over each other for the first 20 laps, would not have helped his tyres. So I think that's what it would have been.
It's a tough old race here at Phoenix. Happy to see the back of it and head on to Brazil.
Yeah, I actually am. And it'll be a normal circuit, let's put it that way.
Well, the question I was going to ask the team managers, particularly yourself, obviously being the boss of Ferrari, I mean, what is the preference, having seen how brutal the bumps are here at Phoenix? We obviously have the choice between Rio or Interlagos. You know, is there a preference at this stage of the season?
I mean, I think a lot of people would like to see a challenge. Formula One shouldn't be easy. However, safety should come into it. And one could argue that the whole, second to last corner situation today was not the easiest in regards to safety anyway. The amount of cars that spun out and had to correct themselves. Thankfully, nothing horrendous happened in the main race. So, we're just going to have to think about safety in that one, and that will hopefully guide us into what should be the right tracks to pick.
Okay, that seems like a fair enough point, Chris. Thanks very much. We'll have a quick word this time with Ryan Ferris. Derek Warwick managing to bring the car home in the top 6, so points for Lotus. A positive situation compared to the difficulties in qualifying, or how do you sum up that first race for you guys?
I mean, the only positive you can really pull from that is that we had a car finish, and I don't know how on earth Warwick managed to finish because his driving today was utter shambolic. But I mean, I don't think there's a single wall around Phoenix today that hasn't been kissed by Warwick. But yeah, I guess you could be positive by the fact that we did score some points. Coming into this weekend, we were hoping to be competitive with Tyrrell, but that doesn't really look on pace like that's at all possible. But it seems somehow the Lamborghini engine managed to keep going, and it was actually our own in-house built transmission that failed on Donnelly's car. So obviously, some repairs needed to be done there.
Now, it's interesting you make that point, because you've said a few times, actually, some rather interesting comments towards your drivers, Donnelly and Warwick. I don't think it's too harsh a secret. You obviously got the Lotus job, and you obviously had these 2 drivers under contract. It's been difficult to break the contract. What do you think are the chances of Warwick and Donnelly seeing out the season with the team, the way things are currently stacked up for them?
I'm not sure at the moment. I think obviously, like many people have said already, it's only the first race. I think obviously we need to look further down the line to see how well they do. Obviously we've got the Cesaris waiting in the wing should he need to step in, but if it comes to the position where we have to replace both drivers partway through the season, I generally the pool's very large, but it's very slim pickings in some areas.
Okay, interesting comments. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that one. We're going to talk over with another of our team managers, Dave Goddard, over at the Ligier team. Dave, a brilliant result for you guys in the end. Eddie Cheever grabbing a top 5 finish on home soil. That's a pretty decent start to the season for Ligier.
It certainly was, yes. I was absolutely amazed, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we know that the Ford engines are very down on power going into that race, and I'll be honest, we didn't expect to gain a sausage out of that race at all, but we've achieved it. Eddie is absolutely over the moon. 5th place in his home race, and something for the home fans to cheer about as well.
Now, I wanted to pick up an interesting rumour that I'd heard in the paddock. Obviously, with Williams likely to be moving away from the Renault engines even as early as Brazil, from sort of the stories that we're hearing, that leaves Renault without a major top team to go play with in Grand Prix racing. And obviously, Ligier being a very passionate French team, what would the chances be of Ligier grabbing hold of those Renault engines while they need a team to push them?
I know that Monsieur Ligier himself, Guy, will have to have some meetings with us before the next race in Brazil, whether a deal can be done in time. But I know it's something that the Ligier bosses and myself are interested in, and it would certainly move us up the grid a little. I know we struggled in qualifying today, and I would love to be up among the front runners. Ligier have been in the doldrums for the last couple of years. I mean, we were struggling to qualify for races towards the end of the 80s. Today is a boost, but I think we need a bigger boost, and Renault could well provide that.
It has been a while since the last Ligier victory from Jacques Lafitte. I think it must have been way back in about 1981, I think was the last Ligier victory. So you guys are obviously feeling the pinch. What is it that's going to need to change? Is it 1 or 2 little fixes, or is there a whole package that needs to come together to get you guys back there?
We've got the driving talent. Eddie's got the Formula One experience. I know he drove for Ligier in the Talbot days back in the early 80s. He was going to retire this year. He was planning to perhaps head into IndyCar, but we convinced him to have one more crack at Formula One this year. Nicola Larini, obviously a very talented name, making his way up the grid slowly but surely. Maybe it is the engine package and a bit more straight line speed that we need. That's going to have to be looked into.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Good to get your feedback on it. We've got time for 2 more interviews before we shut up shop for the day here at Phoenix. Topher Smith is the next man I want to come to. Things at Williams, a little rosier than you might have thought they were mid-race. Obviously, we spoke to you a little bit about the Patrese-Boutsen incident, but to get a podium with Thierry fighting his way back, that's a fabulous performance from your point of view.
Well, there's some redemption right there for Thierry Boutsen, Jake. after the incident that he had with Ricciardo, he drove fantastically. He got his head down. He put the incident behind him, and he took away a podium out of it. And in the race of attrition, as it was, in order to finish first you must finish. He did well to get to the end of the race after the incident, and third place, I think, is a good result for him.
I think you've got your telly on in the background still there, haven't you, Topher? You've still got your race monitor on, haven't you, bless you? You were so intense. You were so intent in watching that race. It's fair enough. Let's cut to the chase. Obviously, you're into the second year with Renault. Renault have just given you a podium to start the year with. What is the truth in these rumours about a possible switch to Honda before the next race is even upon us? I mean, how true are those rumours?
There is nothing that I would like to confirm or deny at this moment in time. All I will say is that in the off-season, there was a little bit of, let's say, an altercation with Renault, which led us to start looking at our options elsewhere. So there is some truth, but only as far as we have looked at other options. We haven't finalised anything for the future yet.
Very interesting. Okay, well, obviously there's a little bit of a discussion that you guys need to have internally with Ricciardo and Thierry for that incident. Has he made any statements since he got back to the pits? Is there anything that he has said to you that we can get a little bit of light shed on?
Well, Ricciardo was obviously very disappointed. When he came back, he wasn't in the best mood. He felt so he could have been standing on the podium today had it not been for that coming together with Thierry. But Ricciardo's a professional. He's been around long enough to know that these things happen in Formula One. I'm sure that once he gets a good night's sleep tonight, he'll put it behind him and he'll look forward to the next race in Brazil. As for Thierry, I was impressed with the way that he got his head down after the incident and drove to that third place. But with regards to his part in the incident, we feel as though he was to blame for that. He has accepted that it was his fault locking up inside of Ricciardo. He's apologised, and they've agreed that they're just going to put it behind them as one of those things, and hopefully they can now work together in harmony for the rest of the season.
Sounds like a very amicable conclusion. Thanks very much, Topher. Good to catch up with you. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Let's have a word with the man who has tasted victory here at the US Grand Prix at Phoenix. To finish us off, it is the team boss at McLaren, Chris Buxton. Chris, what a result in the end. A very stressful early part of the race after the gearbox problem for Senna putting him out. But Gerhard Berger, his first race for the McLaren team, and he's come away with a win. That must be so satisfying.
Oh, what more could I ask for? We did take a bit of a risk bringing Gerhard in. He's known to be a bit of a joker in the pack, and of course, we've had such a strong second half of the 80s, so we had a lot of pressure on our shoulders to perform. And Honda, what a power unit they've given us yet again. So we had a lot to maintain, and did a great job. Sadly, the car is letting down, and suspension failure, not helped by him hitting the wall, but there was nothing he could have done about that. He accepts that as long as we do our job as a team to improve the car. He's quite happy with that. And of course, Gerhard is smiling. I couldn't have asked for more for my drivers. I'm absolutely elated.
Now, an interesting question I want to bring to you before we go to the next race. The next race is Brazil, obviously, Ayrton Senna's home race. He is a world champion from back in 1988. How much of an influence do you think he can have on where the decision-making process for where we go for the next race is? Obviously, there is a sort of an agreement with Jacarapagua, but Interlagos feels they can do a better job. Senna is obviously a Sao Paulo man. How big an interest can he have in making this decision or helping to make this decision?
Ayrton hasn't been very secretive of this. He wanted to be at Sao Paulo, of course, because of his links there. But the Brazilian crowd are so fanatical. It's such an incredible feeling you get from them. Where he goes, the crowd will follow. But he's made no secret. He wanted to be Interlagos. He would quite happily drive it wherever the race is held. But how much of a difference it'll make to the decision making? I mean, it's Ayrton Senna. I mean, who realistically can say no to the man? I certainly can't. Not that I'm willing to in any way, shape, or form right now. He can sway it. The final decision obviously isn't his, but like I said, the crowds in Brazil are so behind him. It's amazing to see. They will follow where he leads.
So it'll be fascinating to see how that goes. Thank you, Chris. Congratulations on your first Grand Prix win of the season. We'll be back in time for you for Brazil. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, fascinating scenes here, Sam. It's been a fascinating Grand Prix. It's been a crazy one, that is definitely for sure. And we've had some interesting discussions. There is one final little interesting conversation to conclude on, and that is apparently an investigation has already started post-race into McLaren. And that is because of Gerhard Berger breaking down on the final lap. There's a discussion as to whether or not him running out of fuel could mean a bit of an issue for post-race scrutineering. Interesting one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how things work on that exactly. I mean, the regulations are quite clear. You've got to be able to supply the fuel sample. Whether the team instructed Gerhard to stop because he wouldn't have the fuel sample. We've seen it before with drivers instructed to stop out on track. I would guess it's a 50-50 chance, really.
Yeah,
it's a coin toss. I mean, if the stewards, the local stewards, are feeling generous, they're more likely just to say, you know what, sort of, we'll let it slide this time. If they're strict, which I haven't personally met the stewards here. Fortunately, I don't like going to their office. But yes, if they're stricter, yeah, they could be in a few problems. Whether it be a fine or worse, I don't know.
It could be an interesting one. Thanks for your company, Sam. It's been a great opening to the season. 1990 has got underway in a rather bizarre manner. It's definitely been a crazy start to the year, but there's more incredible excitement where that comes from as we head to the next race of the championship, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Join us next week when we continue the 1990 Grand Prix World Championship season. I'm Jake Sanson. We hope you've enjoyed it. See you next week.